The following program may contain strong language and mature content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Happy Thursday. You know I get happy about it being Friday Junior around these parts. So I am super hyped, and I'm very hyped today about the topics that we're going to talk about. This is important. I feel like I always say that, but I feel like for real, this is important. Hi everybody, I'm Nicole D Vick, and on this show we talk about all things Black women. And this month I want to focus on self-care. Now, this ain't the first time I've talked about self-care on this show, but we got a little bit of a twist on it. We got a little Michael Jackson twist, as one of my coworkers says. Got a little razzle dazzle to add on to this idea of self-care, specifically around Black women. Now, y'all know for me, my favorite form of self-care is nail care. Y'all see my nails? Where the camera at? Look. I took it back to the 90s with that airbrush look. It's my time to focus, to be still, to just dream, to imagine, and to be creative. And I want to hear from y'all in the comments. Tell me what your favorite self-care strategy is, because I want to know. Maybe there's something that I want to pick up on, or the folks that are watching right now can, try to adopt for themselves. So for this episode, I want to dig deeper. One of my Pyro Media Network colleagues, Dante, had a show called Digging Deep with Dante. I'm going to dig deep today. For self-care, for Black women, it's more about self-preservation. It's not just about being selfish and taking time off to get the nails done just because. It's really about self-preservation. And if you know the work of Audre Lorde, she says, and I'm going to read this quote so I get it right. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. Like, this is not fun and games for us. There are so many stressors on us as Black women that self-care is actually about saving our lives. But this word self-care has kind of been, I think, overused, misused. It has lost some of its meaning. So what does self-care really mean? What does it mean for us as Black women? Is there research out there about self-care for Black women? And, of course, I've done some digging, so we just gonna get all up into it right now. But I can't do that without my co-host, Nomsa Khalfani. Come on down. Okay.
Hey.
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
First and foremost, your birthday is this month, so we gotta say happy birthday to you.
Hey, thank you. It's
we're not gonna ask the age. We just happy birthday.
You can go ahead. You want to go ahead? I ain't scared.
Well, then you just go and say it then.
So, Dr. K will be turning 5 Trey, the 53, on July 27th, Leo season. I think we're in Cancer season right now. Leo season will be coming up, but I celebrate the whole month. So,
Lord, these Leos, y'all Leos are some special. We love you, y'all, but y'all some special people. And the same could be said about the Virgos.
Yes, Virgo. Yes, Virgo. Yes.
I actually have no words.
See, you don't have no words, right?
We'll wait till September to talk about the Virgo.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. See, and that is you. Okay, hold on. And this is me.
I'm just saying. Okay. All right.
So, for your birthday, we're talking about self-care. What self-care strategies are you going to employ for your birthday?
Well, I would say not just for my birthday. I think I have been trying to give myself more permission to be still, to be quiet, to embrace me, right? And to give myself time to reflect, to reimagine. But I'm really enjoying being quiet, being still, floating around in a floaty in the pool, embracing the sun, and just like, music, water, just taking it all in. So that's what I'm doing.
There's something to be said about being still, especially because for us, we often have to fight, push, pull, dig, crawl. What else?
Yeah, I mean, we always, you're fighting. There's some things that it feels daily. It feels like there's a constant battle, right? Just being a Black woman in America, there is you fighting. Everything feels like a fight, and so it's nice to be able to feel like, woo, I'm free. And I think we are so busy. We're in this whole microwave, everything quick and fast, right? Quick, fast, in a hurry. So that's what we do with everything, our personal lives, our professional lives. Everything is just go, go, go. And giving ourselves permission to just be, whatever that means, right? That could be reading, that could be journaling, that could be doing your nails, that could be doing nothing. That's, to me, I'm all for it. I'm all for being okay doing nothing.
Yeah. And there's so much value in that. And I think that is something that we haven't been taught as Black women, because we've been taught to put ourselves last. So that I am the social media girl. I'll be on TikTok, I'll be everywhere. I'll be looking at all kind of stuff, and I see all the things. Now, our guest, I can't even remember how I came across Dr. AJ's profile. But I was hyped because I remember there was a discussion about public health, epidemiology, and I was like, oh, that's my people. Dr. AJ is like my people, because that's just something that I care so much about. And when I came across, I think what was happening was there was some presentation of some research that she had done. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to reach out. And sometimes you see people on social media and, you decide that maybe they're unapproachable. But I got in her DM and she was like, hey, what's going on? Here's my email. Let's see. So one of the things that she was talking about was self-care in Black women. And there was a published article that she was a contributing author to, or I think lead author, because her name is first. And I was like, oh, crap. And so, I'm in school. So I went right to the school library and I was typing in and pulled all 3 of those journal articles down and learned so much. So I really want to just bring her on and let Dr. AJ tell us who she is. And we just going to jump in because this is important. We going to dig. Let's dig. Hey, how are you?
Getting old, but I'm here.
Did you say getting old?
I always say that.
So, okay, well, since we talking about age, Nomsa already said her age. She said she's 53. I'm 43. Let's see if you really are getting old.
Wait a minute, I'm not 53 yet. I'm still holding on to 52. I'm almost
Okay,
In the
53.
day.
You
52
know,
and 3/4.
Okay. You better give me all my days.
52 and 9/10. 52 and 14/15.
I'm 38. I know.
About to throw this fag.
This is look, but we you already started with Black women 38 years. I might look good, but these have been some 38 years. And I'm tired. I need a nap.
I've been following the nap ministry now that you say that, and I'm like, she ain't said nothing but a word about going to sleep. Like, bye, good night.
hello.
She be on. She be on. And when I see a post from her that's like, you need to go lay down now, I'll be like, all right, you said nothing but a word, sis.
You said it, so
All right.
here I go. So, Dr. AJ, tell people who you are and your area of expertise. I have your bio, but sometimes it better when it come out your mouth than other people to read your stuff. So, who are you and what is your area of expertise?
It's always going to be different when I tell it. So you should never let me tell the story of who I am, because I will say things like, I'm a concerned community member that's also a gossiper. And that is the best description. I mean, real talk, that is really who I am. I only use research to gossip about reasonable things. But I mean, all I do is gossip.
Well, you know what? I feel like I like that because I gossip too. I like to talk about everybody and everything, and also make sure everybody else knows what they need to do. Here's what you need to do with what I done just told you. So I like that. But for the rest of y'all that's watching, she has a doctorate in public, doctorate degree and an MPH degree, and is at Bellman School of Public Health at Columbia University. So, just for the record, there's some credentials here, and also an HBCU alumna.
And now you get into the stuff that brings out the pride. Morgan State all day, go Bears.
And then, okay, hold on. And a board member of the Society for the Analysis of African American Public Health Issues. Okay, is there an application? Because I feel like I need to be in that.
They would love for you to join the board. I had a meeting with them earlier today, and I was like, "Child, y'all trying to make me work? They make you work."
But that's good work. That
it is good work.
Kind of work we need to be in, right?
It's the fulfilling work, and it makes us actually think, because we have board members of Black women that push. They're like, okay, now we can't just be up here, a bunch of scientists thinking. What we gonna actually do with the knowledge that we have? And I'm like, man, sis, why you trying to make me do more?
I already done published the article.
Nap ministry said go take a nap. You talking about go get in the streets?
Like, man. So these 3 journal articles that I was just so hyped to download. Can we talk about Black women and self-care? Because you talked about some stuff, and we're gonna get into it a little bit later, but just set the stage for what drove you to that as an area of focus. Why?
This is actually gonna, fit right into what I think people expect about research, but don't often get, which is that this was a very spiritual process. I pride myself on listening to my gut, listening to my ancestors, listening to my community. And this was a situation where I came to Morgan to get my PhD in measurement, and psychometrics is the title. And I kept saying to them, I want to create a tool for Black women to assess their own health so that they can decide what they want to do with it. Not what someone else tells them to do with it, but what they want to do with it. And I kept struggling my first semester, like self-help, and somehow came across self-care. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, that's it. That's it. I'm running with this. And it was happening alongside the social media movement on self-care. So I had people that I can bounce ideas off of, acupuncturists, spiritual healers, that I would be in their DMs. Like, what do you think about this? I'm building, I'm thinking. And then I would expand how I thought about it. So like I leaned on Bell Hooks's self-recovery. I leaned on Queen Afua up in New York, who've been training all the spiritual healers, and her sacred healing book. Audre Lorde in her book Zami, a new spelling of my name. Like all of these women who left the breadcrumbs. Oprah has been showing us how to be. Monique has been showing us how to be. Recently we have Layla Delia in her book Vibrate Higher. So I really just listened to them and said, how do I construct a study that pulls this out of Black women who've lived it, experienced it, learned from it? What tools do they have to offer other Black women? And that's how I designed the study. I went to those experts in self-care and said, what is self-care for Black women? What are we missing? What do we need to understand? What do we need to do? And they were really the ones who shaped what became this research.
Wow. That's so amazing. You know, I'm working on my doctorate. I'm at the point where they're trying to get me to get this problem of practice together. And I get my papers turned back to me with red stuff all through red. Oh, this ain't right. Your APA is wrong. But one of the things I want to say about what you said is that oftentimes what I'm learning is a lot of these theories and these frameworks that are used in research are written by white men, sometimes white women, but you actually went to the source and used them as the framework, as the guideline, as the basis to create what you created in your body of research. And I think that is so important because sometimes I be sitting in class and I'm like, y'all ain't got nothing else better than Brofenbrenner or whoever else, whoever.
Ben,
I'm like, so, y'all pray for me, pray for my journey because it's going to get hard, right? I felt smart the first couple semesters. And I'm like, oh, now for real, we got it for real start. Oh, okay, all right.
Well, I understand actually this work. So, all of this in these systems, because I also study structural racism, is all about our strategy in the system. And so I played a lot of strategy with my doctoral program. They wanted me to do this large survey, no problem. But I'm also going to center it on this population. You want these kind of analyses? Great. I'm also going to do qualitative. So I negotiated things. And one thing I negotiated in particular was citing dissertations. My committee hated that idea. They're like, no, you need to cite the published literature. But what I was finding is many Black women had studied self-care. They just stopped at their dissertations. And we know why. Once you get out, you already know these people, look, the fight has yet to begun. So I understood why they didn't publish it further. And so I took on that task. Not only am I going to publish it further, but I'm going to cite you. Those papers have like 8 different Black women's dissertations cited in them.
That's amazing. Dr. Khalfani, you got any questions or comments on that? Because I think that's huge.
That is huge. And I'm glad you raised that, right? Because representation matters, right? And if we are not researching, talking, writing, presenting, conferencing, whatever it is, our lived experiences, then somebody else is talking about us for us, right? And so I think that, being strategic in a, I'm not going to say calculating, but really in that, and it is calculating, right? Because they don't want you to use other dissertation works or just a couple. You can, float a couple in there, but they really want published works, right? Mm-hmm. But dissertations actually allow us to stretch what an initial thought was to something else. So it is great to be able to have those works, to be able to then further the questions and what's important. But we have to do that, and we have to push for that to happen, because otherwise, again, our experiences are being talked about by others, and typically white men, older white men, and nobody can talk about our experience like we can. No one can relate. And so, evidence-based or promising practices, right? We know what that stuff is, and we need to be able to put that out there. And the more we do it, whether it's in opt-eds, whether it is in, magazines that, Essence, or the things that we know, everybody will pick up, because everybody's not going to pick up a scholarly journal.
Yep.
Right? It's like everybody's not picking up those journals. So, we may need to do podcasts. We may need to do opt-eds. We may need to just, put things out in our social media platforms to get to a wider audience to actually then have these conversations.
Absolutely.
And you'll find that thread, like, we were very strategic in how we published this, from publishing, like Debrina Jackson Gandy had a book on pampering that was big in the 90s. She did a whole Essence tour. Like, in my conclusion section and discussion section, I'm literally like, this is exactly what Debrina Jackson Gandy told you in the 90s. We found through a research study. Duh. It was already there. You just didn't recognize it as scholarly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we got to start dismantling some systems in academia, and that's a whole nother. You might have to come back for that one, because that's a whole nother conversation. One thing that I noticed that was lifted up in your articles was that, one, Black women are disproportionately impacted by poor health relative to white women. And the second one is that there's not a lot of literature on the role of self-care in Black women. And I think, you kind of talked about your expertise in structural racism. And I'm like, well, that sounds like structural racism to me. So can you give some insight on that? We don't have enough evidence on self-care in Black women, but we also have plenty of evidence on the disparities in health outcomes. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, there's a little bit of this tension too, and some of us who study these topics, where we want to demonstrate the impact of racism and sexism and multiple systems of oppression on our lives, but then we also want to showcase how we survive and thrive. So it's like this delicate balance. And I feel like the self-care work I've been working with, that was very important for me, is try to figure out how to tell the reality of this story. It's like, I don't need self-care just because. I need self-care because y'all crazy. Y'all in these streets killing Black people. And I'm scared for my own life. You're poisoning my food. You got me restricted to neighborhoods with pollution. You're trying to kill me. That's why I need self-care. But on top of that, the self-care that I've been taught is often very commercialized. So we talk about in the paper how many Black women shared that they got their self-care lessons from white women, tried out those methods, found it didn't work for them, and had to create other sort of systems of thinking about self-care. So we talk about all of that as well. And a lot of that is sort of, a couple people have told me this, that when I talk about the principles, they'll sound very psychological if you're trained in some kind of psychology or social work or something like that. And I often laugh because I think, well, where do you think they got them principles from?
That, that part right there. Hello, say it louder for the folks in the back that missed it. That
Where's
part.
the megaphone?
Hello, did y'all hear that? Did you hear it? Right? I mean, and I think this whole focus on self-care is important because Black women, we suffer we suffer the superwoman complex.
Yes.
We can do all things. We are strong. We don't need to take time, and we don't have time to take time, kind of thing. And that message is so it's sabotaging. It is such the wrong message, because it gives the impression that to take care of yourself, to take a moment to be quiet, to be still, whatever that means, is selfish. And like, you ain't got time for that. You need to do these other things. But we are falling up. We are dying. And if we don't slow down and pay attention and take care of ourselves, well, then we can't take care of all these other folks we are responsible for.
Absolutely. And
responsible for.
Right. Now, we're going to stop right there, because I want to go to commercial. We're going to go to commercial. We're going to come back on that note, because you talked about the strong woman, all these things. I want to talk about that. So let's go to commercial break, and then we're going to come back right to that, because I think that's a perfect way to start back up. And we're back. And before we left, Dr. Khalfani had said a thing that we need to continue to dig into. Yes, the floor is yours.
So going back to recap, in case those who weren't with us before the commercial break but have joined us now, it's like talking about self-care and but then also just the message many of us as Black women have been taught, and we get stuck in this superwoman complex of we are strong, we can do all things, we can take care of everything by ourselves, we need no help, we don't need anybody, right? And it's selfish to slow down and focus on you, because we have too much stuff, we don't have time. I often hear us say, I don't have time for that, we don't have time, to slow it down. But then, we just talked about also health disparities and the impact and the things that are just killing us, because we are just so busy of taking care of everybody and everything. We are not taking care of us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've done the research, you've seen it, you know it, you've seen the data. Tell us.
Let me give you the sort of pathway of how this might look for Black women based on the studies that I've done. And so what might happen is you're not taught to take those different periods to heal, right? A traumatic event happens, you just bounce back. You get the reinforcement from your sister friends, from your family members, like, well, what you gonna do next? Like, what's the next step? Come on, hurry up, recover, keep it pushing. And that doesn't allow you to heal. So you just keep moving on these sort of damaged wounds. And then Black women will not invest the time, right? And we're quite magical. So we can slow down the world if we need to, but we're not taught to see ourselves as that powerful. So then we believe we have to just keep being run ragged until we have this grand trauma. And that's how it was referred to in the study, as a grand trauma, like a health condition where you have to change course or die.
Yeah.
Or some kind of loss of someone you relied on that forces you to really grapple with yourself. And it's at this juncture that many Black women seek self-care. And luckily, it seems like it's not too late, but I wouldn't recommend it because I'd rather be in my whole health now than to risk the chance that I actually survive the grand trauma. And this is why that media representation became so important in the study, because the lack of visualization of self-care was important. Like, we gossiped about TV shows. We talked about Viola Davis and what is that? How to Get Away with Murder.
Right.
How everyone in the show was a murderer but her. And the second she said, forget these fools, I'm leaving, her character was penalized. She was arrested by the police, dragged back, everybody talked trash about her. We get these images of a Black woman deciding, like, forget this, I'm taking care of me. All y'all crazy.
Yeah.
As some sort of, she did something disrespectful, or she's penalized for it. And then we internalize that, like, oh, I can't take any time for me because look what happened.
Yeah.
Grandma didn't need any time, grandma died at 60.
Yeah.
It's interesting. All of this that we've been talking about reminds me of the thing that all Black women say: Black don't crack. And it just reminds me that, yes, we are magical. We can stop the world, as you said. But I also realize and recognize that I think we shortchange ourselves by saying stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yes, we may look younger than, other people of the same age. But I feel like the reality is our insides are cracking. So we might not be cracking right here, but the part that matters the most inside is what's crumbling. So how do we help Black women understand something that you said, that we are worth the pause, the stillness, the self-care well before the traumatic event, the grand event that stops us in our tracks?
So many of the women that I spoke with had a whole radical notion of self-care that I just was not ready for. I was expecting it to be these activities, these very particular things you do, go on a walk, whatever the case may be, eat healthy foods. They were like, no, this is a consciousness building. You have to literally decolonize yourself from all the things you've been socialized to believe about who you are and who you can be. And so they set this sort of first principle of deep work. Go in, figure out who taught you to get up and make the plate for the men. Who taught you that? Who reinforced that for you? And then strip that from yourself. Whatever is not truly you, strip it from you. And then decide who you want to be. That's the second principle, which is to take authority over your life. Decide what behaviors, what ethics, what goals really embody who you truly are, not what was given to you since birth. And a lot of that work will require principle number 3, which is reconnection. Black women talked a lot about either not being connected to a spiritual community, not being connected to their own gut, their intuition, how they truly felt about something. I mean, some of them were just like, I don't even know how I really feel about it, or if this is my mom coming out of me. And then once that consciousness is built, then you get to enjoy the self-care lifestyle where you can explore different activities that really build that consciousness for you. That might be yoga for real, or it might be at the nail shop. It might be a dance class. It might be sitting with your girls. Whatever it is, it has to only be appropriate for you. No one else. appropriate for you. And then the last principle is accountability, because Black women, if we can get away with it, we're not taking care of ourselves, we will. And there was some debate on whether or not you really needed other Black women as like a sisterhood to help you be accountable. Some people felt that you just needed someone who was on their path to help them be accountable. Whatever the case may be, if it's a worksheet or if it's a tracking document, an app, there needs to be some form of accountability so you can see really what happens when you hold yourself to it.
You telling them a lot of people. I said, dang, and told on me. Because I can relate to a lot of this whole idea of not even trusting your own gut. And literally being like, I don't know, like a decision comes up and I'm really literally not knowing, well, is this the right thing? Is this the right place I'm supposed to be? Because I have not been connected to that gut. I haven't been taught to trust it. And sometimes what happens in life, you get put in situations where you're forced to be like, wait a minute, hold on, this ain't right. But that was the deep work that you have to do to realize what's happening to be able to even figure out what to do next. So those are very real and relevant to me. I don't know, Nomsa, did any of those resonate? Because I was like, ooh.
No, all of it, right? And then, for all different things, right? I mean, I was like, ooh, you talking to my spirit right now. I mean, because I do think, we all go through these different journeys. And I was on a sabbatical, and I felt like that was a very freeing time, probably the most freeing time I've had in my career. And I gave myself permission to do absolutely nothing. I had nothing planned, nothing scheduled. And some people were like, you ain't going nowhere. You ain't doing nothing. I'm like, I'm going to my backyard. I'm going to maybe catch up on some TV. I wrote, but I swam. I was in our pool. I was swimming, and my mind just felt free. And I was like, I want to hold on to these feelings. I want to hold on to this. I don't want to get back into that rut of busy and be busy for the sake of being busy, but to really listen to heart, body, and soul and slow down. And I just think everything that you've just talked about is just important for us to do and give ourselves permission to do, because we're not given that, right? We're not taught that. And we look outside of us, in the outer communities to, for what that means. And so some of us think, oh, that's just going to the spa, or that's, but it's deeper than that. It is that spiritual thing and connection, right? It is survival. It's revolutionary, right? And so that's how, it's like, girl, come on, let's get, this is just timely. And it's just something, I just keep saying to myself and others, we just got to give ourselves some grace and patience. It's okay to be still.
Yeah.
And I love that this last point about being still, because this came up a lot. And there were a few generational things that were sort of disconnects, where I had younger people say things like, I was taught to be still. We might have passed down some of those things, but never explained to people what you're doing in that moment. So they're like, I'm being still, and what? My great grandma would light a candle. Like, yeah, but she wasn't just lighting the candle, like that was symbolism for her. And so because of that, I started thinking about what is truly the process in an emergency, because this kind of deep work stuff takes time. That's getting in touch with the creator giving you, the person you were before humans got their hooks into you. But there is like a self-care you need in the moment when some emergency happens. And that's sort of like a couple different things. Like, first, comfort your spirit and don't judge yourself. If that's eating a cupcake, girl, you better tear that cupcake up. Whatever you got to do to comfort your spirit in an emotional emergency, you do it.
Yep.
And then you cleanse your body, because imagine all those hormones and emotions that have just flooded your body. Like now you got to detox, fast, meditate, sweat. I don't know, whatever you do, get that energy up out of you, and then replenish what you've just pushed out. For me, that's grooming myself. But for other people, that might be reciting affirmations, reading their Bible, doing more reconnection work, and then restore the basics. Now you're getting back to normal, right? You had an emotional emergency. You had to cleanse your body. You replenished it. Let's get back to the basics. Like, let's do those basic things that keep you healthy. Is that getting sleep? Is that moving your body? Is it practicing mindfulness? Is it ignoring phone calls from people? Whatever that basic level is, get back to that, and then start building on other things, like taking time to listen to yourself, taking time to inspire yourself, going to dances, reading, going to art, being in nature, claiming space for yourself, creating something. I don't know what it is about Black women in creation. When we create things, we heal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So create that garden, create
That's
that
right.
art, create that revolutionary idea
Yep.
Yeah.
that's been in your back pocket, and then start practicing prevention so that you don't end up back in this place again. But it's okay to do these activities that people tell us aren't right for us when we're in emergency situations. We can heal from it. We just don't need to do it when we've barely had a scare, right? Sometimes some of us are doing toxic behaviors just because it's Tuesday. It's like, nah, boo, this is reserved for an emergency emotional situation. Okay, cupcake ain't for Tuesday. Cupcake is for emergency.
Wait a minute now. See, now I was with you till you said that. I was right along with you. I said, wait a minute, I can't have my cupcake on Tuesday.
You need your emergency plan to work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can't abuse it by using it every time you have a nuisance.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I think one of the things that I kept thinking to myself as you were talking was there's a lot of shame and guilt that we have to let go of around a lot of this that we're talking about, right? Like, first of all, the shame or the guilt about self-care, but also the shame and the guilt around, like, it's okay. Like you said, if I need that cupcake in that moment, that's fine. I don't have to feel bad about that. And so I think that's also the other angle that we haven't touched on specifically, but it's also really, really, really important.
I'll even add to it that I think once we get past the judgment, because that's the socialization, that's us in progress on the deep work. We're learning how to stop judging ourselves as others would.
Yeah.
So we're getting there. It's a process, right? So once we get past that, we'll see what self-care actually prepares us to do. And I found this interesting. Most people in the study would say self-care gives them resilience. But there were a few people who said self-care equips them to resist structural racism. And I hold on to that. Whenever I have to talk to student groups, I will tell them that. Like, this is going to be your imperative right here. You don't practice self-care to get by. You practice self-care to dismantle.
Yes.
Something happened today, go rest. Take care of yourself, because I need you in the fight tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do tonight.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is amazing. This is an amazing conversation. Nomsa, any thoughts? I have one more. I have about 4 more questions, but we really ain't got time, but like one good one. So Nomsa, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add. I just think also, listening to all of this, and, what comes to mind is, just kind of you're thinking of like, what message would you want to leave people, right? And so it's like, how should people be thinking differently about self-care? Or, how do they, I think you've given us the principles, but it's like, what is it, how should we be preparing ourselves and be thinking about it a little differently now?
So Layla Delia says this. She says, self-care is how you take your power back. And I want to add to that, Dr. Monica McLemore on Twitter says all the time, she says it just hits me so hard when I read it. She says, it doesn't have to be like this.
And that's my girl. She is so, yes.
It doesn't have to be like this. Now put that together with Layla Delia's idea that self-care is how you take your power back. Then you're like, oh, I can change the world. Let me get on my self-care hype. Let me heal myself so that I can create the world that I want to see. Because it doesn't have to be like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's beautiful. And a good way to kind of close things out. But the last thing I want to ask you, I don't think, well, just in case people aren't sure of this, and I know I understand it, but can you speak a little bit about the relevance and the importance and the significance of your research being in peer-reviewed journal articles? Why? Why is that? You know, we can all sit here and say, oh, this is common knowledge. We know this stuff. We live it. This is our life. You know, the lived experiences, we got this. But why is this research so important to be published in these journals and to be put out there into the world?
Because the record is how future generations find us.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're living under the kind of hierarchy and system where documentation is in their libraries. Just like I said, we couldn't find all these Black women because they published their dissertations and didn't move on. So it looks like I'm creating seminal literature and self-care. I'm not the one starting that. I'm pulling these women with me in this literature so that the next Black women can find it and not waste their time trying to document what it is. They can spend their time trying to heal us and move on.
Perfect. Beautiful. Whew. I mean, we might have to have you back.
I love it. I love it.
Look, all you gotta do is tell me how to work the lights.
We're gonna send you a ring light. We're gonna send you one. We just gonna send one to over there to you.
Can I get one? I want one.
I mean, okay. It is your birthday month.
Can I get one too? I'm just
saying. You say that. That's your birthday present from me to you. I'm gonna give you one for your birthday.
Happy birthday, Dr. K.
Thank you, Dr. AJ.
And I'm just gonna say, personally, it's someone, like I said, I'm on my journey. We're gonna get this dang on dissertation and all this stuff done. I just always feel honored to be around y'all that have finished it. You got the paperwork, the degrees, and all that stuff. I'm working on it. If they don't kill me first, because I'm already.
It's not in the storyline for you. That was another storyline. It's not in this storyline.
Hello.
I said, woo, and I haven't even started yet, but I'm already like, I'm in my third semester. And you know, they got us in school over the summertime. I'm like, y'all, are y'all for real?
You got this, girl. You got it. You was made for this.
You really do. And when you feel like you don't, you practice your self-care, and that will help you determine what to do. Because some of these steps, girl, the to the dissertation, and this is unfortunately the truth, is just to get past go. They just call it pop. So you go ahead and make a beat out of it, girl. You better put on some music and hop, skip to my lane. Like, you better get it.
I'm just going to email y'all.
Yes.
I'm just going to reach out to y'all. Like, can we have a moment? Please, somebody, please, because this is going to be crazy. So
as many moments as you need.
I'm excited, but it's one thing to be excited. Then it's like, oh, now I got to write this damn thing. But it's okay.
It will flow. If it comes from spirit, I guarantee you it will flow. I wrote mine in a whole winter, locked in my apartment, listening to my homeboy Cameron Graves playing his music on repeat, just like.
Right. Trust me, I'm getting myself together, so I'll be ready for it.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you, Dr. AJ. It was amazing. Again, you are a member of the Nicole D Big Live family. We might have to bring her into the sister friend circle. I feel like, This is beautiful. But thank you so much for being here, Dr. AJ. And I forgot to acknowledge we would have one of our friends, Milan. She left a comment, and I'll go back and address it. It was a beautiful comment about the work that she does on maternal health. And in relation to the stuff that we were talking about today. So her comment, such a timely discussion for me, as I've lately been big on pushing self-care for Black mamas to be as a way to counteract the staggering Black maternal health outcomes we're seeing now. These mamas need to be loved on, rubbed on, centered, and cared for so they can usher in healthy Black babies.
Yes.
I love that AJ said self-care isn't something we do just because. They're really out here actively trying to kill us. Self-care is. Milan is my girl. She has left us. She was in LA. She's in Atlanta now. It's okay. I guess it's okay. But love her just the same. And I'm very proud of the work that she does. All right, y'all.
Holla at me. I got a student that can help you, sis. Holla.
Okay, well, I'm gonna make that.
How cool.
You know, that's me. I'm the connector. I connect everybody. So that will be, we will make that happen. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. AJ. Thank you, Nomsa. Happy birthday again. We're going to close up out of here. Remember, you all, you can watch this replay, YouTube, Facebook. Pick up a copy of my book, which I'm now considering. I'm like, maybe I need to rename that book. Pushing Through now just don't sound right no more. But that's what it's called. Pushing Through, Finding the Light Every Lesson. And my guided journal, Push Through, 52 Weeks of Light in Tough Times. You can follow me on social media. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn, all of them things. TikTok. I'm trying to be a TikToker. You can visit my website, www.NicoleDVick.com. Woo-hoo! And don't forget, when we're not doing Nicole D. Vick Live, we are doing Pushing Through, my video podcast with my beautiful, beautiful 25-year-old daughter. I remind you all, mommies, your responsibility to nurture the relationship with your adult child does not stop when they turn 18. We're talking about self-care and a legacy. You got to keep the relationship with your kids past 18. Don't throw them outside. Love on your children, okay? So that they are whole and healthy and they can take care of your grandbabies. All right, y'all. Let me go because I got class in 7 minutes. All right. See you. Bye.
Wow.